this week. Today is Rosh Chodesh, yeah. Parshas Terumah. So, if you ask me... Yeah, we're live. If you ask me to speak about... There you go. The 7-second delay. If you ask me to speak about... Wow, Shulam Aleich.
Hello.
More Chevra.
How are you, my friends? Please.
This is the after party. Rabbi Jacobson after party here. So,
yeah, of course.
they don't even know. You weren't by Rabbi Jacobson.
I'd want to sign
You certainly should go. So, if you ask me about Trump's policies and all this stuff, even though we have Chevra that know about these things, you wouldn't ask me about these things. But I could make believe, like Baruch Hashem, like any good Jew, that they can make believe like he's the prime minister. Right. I can make believe that I know about this thing and about that thing, and I can make like I have an opinion. Well, he's good with this, he's bad with this. You know, I can make it up. If you ask me about the taxes, if you ask me about those things, once it starts getting into any numbers, I'm finished. You know, I don't want to tell you numbers and me. Like I told my chavrusa today, he was asking me about I don't know, something as a Y and a Z and a graph and a grant. I don't know what he was. I was like,
Y?
Yeah, past like the arithmetic stuff of like, you know, division. Division is as far as I go. Right. Maybe fractions now. I'm learning it with my daughter. Division, yeah.
1 divided 2.
They don't know. It's that thing with the line and the 2 dots on the calculator.
The calculator has it?
Yeah, the calculator has it. Don't worry about it. It's there. So math is not my thing. So this week's parsha is all about taxes to a certain extent, and so his tax returns also. Please remember to file your tax returns.
February 14th?
I don't know. But the nakuda is that I'm not going to be able to tell you much about the taxes and the numbers, so don't ask me. But
what can I get you?
Lemaisa, we deal with taxes and we deal with tzedakahs and monies, and for that purpose, those purposes, we actually do need to know a little bit about numbers and a little bit about these things.
You know how much an essay costs or matzah?
About how much matzah costs.
Too much.
Right, too much.
Straight up.
The lechem that makes you an oini, right?
No, you buy machines. I never heard that Jewish.
Yeah, lechem oini, no? That's the pshat, no?
Yeah. Lechem makes money.
Lechem makes money. But
today, because you got to pay for the hotel. Ouch.
For the hotel?
Right.
So then
family, it's not only you and your wife. It's your whole family.
Sounds like someone's forced.
What do you say?
The hotel. Lemaisa, if you would have saved all the money from all the hotels from all the years, you probably could have built your own hotel in the end.
You never know.
Should just make the payment early. You know, take out like a mortgage and build your own hotel, and then you'll have this up. Anyways, but with taxes and with money and stuff, there was one of the gedolim back in the day, around 70, 80 years ago. And he was trying to support his yeshiva. He was going to parlor meetings in this place and that place, and it was so difficult to support the yeshivas back in the day. You know, we're talking about 1920s, all the days.
Nice.
And Rav Nosson speaks about in the Kuli Halachas. He mentions that once. He says, and he's writing in 1840 something. 1830s, 1840s, and he writes how nowadays when I go around collecting, so everyone tells me, you know, Reb Nosson, I would love to give you, but you saw what happened with the market day, and you saw what happened with the king last week and everything. And he says they always say this from the beginning of time. He says as long as I can remember, they're always saying it's the 2008, it's the recession. You understand that times are hard because of the new tax laws, and he said there's always something. But this Yid was going around, and he was having a really hard time, and he was really broken about it. And so he was sitting there, one of his Talmidim that were traveling with him, he said, his Talmud asked him, he said, I don't understand Rosh Hashiva. Rav Meir Shapiro just went around collecting, the Rosh Hashiva, the Rav of Lublin, and he collected around 10 million rubles, and he built a gorgeous, huge building with, it was like the most state-of-the-art, most beautiful building, and electricity it had a pnimiya, it had a dormitory, it had a lunchroom, it had a kitchen, it was unreal. He says, here we are trying to collect a few dollars so that we can give kids to eat for food so that they can continue learning, and it's almost impossible. So he answered that was from this week's Parsha. He said that in this week's Parsha, Terumah, it starts off that you got to give some, that Moshe Rabbeinu asked Klal Yisrael to give from the nidvas libai, from the kindness of their heart, to build the Mishkan. What comes pouring out? Shefa of money. Moshe Rabbeinu collects money until he has to stop giving. There's too much, right? Pouring out.
That you never hear.
But then, you all of a sudden, a couple of parshas later, I don't know where, you have the karbonis, and it says give a chatzi shekel, all the different laws and how to collect the taxes. Why? Because we need to upkeep the Mishkan. We have to have karbonis. We have to have all these things. So what's shot that one was impossible, one was coming b'shefa? So he said, when it comes to building a building, and getting a big plaque, and getting a big zach on the thing, you'll have donors from today till tomorrow. But to give the toilet paper for some guys to continue learning in that, there's no glory in it.
So
it's very, very difficult, right? Reb Nosson Tzvi Finkel Zatzal, if you hang around the Mir in Beis Yisrael, it's basically Mir town. They basically own the entire town, plus minus, and they have around 16, 18, 19 base medrashes all over, everywhere. Some of them massive, some of them smaller. But he was building like one a year for like 10 years, like literally a big, nice after base medrash, one a year. And at a certain point, Baruch Hashem, he was doing a lot of Mesiras Nefesh for the collecting. He used to go to America on a motorhome and he could barely move. It was a big Mesiras Nefesh, but he was having success and he was building. But then all of a sudden he realized that these big Gvirim were giving $10 million to build a Beis Medrash, and then he was left with a budget that was 30% bigger next year, and they weren't giving the extra money for that. So he stopped taking money for buildings, and he said, if you want to give a building, you give 5 years straight to the upkeep of the building. That's what's called giving a building, he said. And after 5 years, hopefully we'll be able to balance it and we'll be able to handle it on our own. The Nakuda is that there's obviously a big thing to give a building, but to upkeep it is an even more difficult thing, and so in a certain sense more chashuv. There's also a question that why over here by the Mishkan specifically there was no taxes. Why was it something from Nidvas Liba that Moshe Rabbeinu said? So we see that they wanted to give it, but why Shalom Aleichem? Why did they have that specifically here?
Come on, take a plate, Cholent.
So Rabzah, Cholent and Kogel something.
You're not good till you eat Cholent, then you get better.
You're tight, you're not mutav.
Ah.
You're tight being a mutav.
Shaila is if you're in a new shear now and you didn't eat Cholent here, if you're Yaitzer the last Cholent, I'm not sure. You have to know. Ask, only if you had in mind. Here, you have to have had in mind that with that Cholent, you're Yaitzer all the other Cholents on Thursday night. Here, okay. Hilchas Cholent. So Reb Zalman Sorotzkin actually says a beautiful thing. His mamish beautiful. He said that the Mishkan, in the end of the day, was built from this Trumas Nidvas Liba, right? It was built from the gold and the silver and the earrings and you guy had like a button that was made out of gold. He pulled it off. And the Apple Watch, right? They pulled off. Yeah, they melted the Apple Watches until for precious metals and stuff. All these different things. So they gave everything that they had for the Mishkan. And it was built basically, literally, it was melted and built and unified from the little portions and little stuff that they gave from their heart that give. So HaKadosh Baruch Hu said, this is a place where my Shekhinah could dwell, right? A Yid gives a little bit of his money and a little bit of his necklace and thing. They gave mamash from their hearts. Hashem said, this is something that's unbelievable. So he says that if you look at that, he says, if you look at that reflected in a base medrash and in the shuls nowadays, so also nowadays there's no taxes, right? There's no taxes. No one makes a tax usually. I know that they come to people and they say, the appeal, the membership fee. Now that's the upkeep. I think to build a shul, usually people come and they make collections and stuff, but there's no necessarily a mandatory tax. They come, they make appeals and stuff like that, but there's no tax. So in the end of the day, a shul is built. Every little piece of it is built from the Nidvas Liba of Yidden, which means that Hashem loves the shuls, because nowadays where does Hashem dwell? In the shuls, in the Beit Midrashos, Beit Knesses, because it's mamish built from the little specks of what a Yid just mamish scraps together and gives to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. So it's a beautiful thing. I remember I once said this story here, but to show the gedula, the greatness of a shul. When Rav Koenig was here, when he was after his surgery, so my father decided to order new chairs. I think these are already the next new chairs, the next batch, because that's going back 13 years ago. But at that time, we had folding chairs, the nice little, these ones, regular folding chairs, and everyone was fine with them. My father said, no, we should upgrade the shul, we should get these nice, comfortable ones, the fancier ones, the more comfortable ones. So I was curious, I was like, what's the big deal? We have shul, we have chairs, what's the big deal? So I was waiting for the guy. My mother was going to sleep. It was already getting later and later. The delivery guys kept saying they're coming later and later. And I was waiting with the Rav. The Rav was living down here in the basement then. And we were waiting for the guy to come. And the Rav told me, he said that the Medrash says that if we would see the kedusha of a base medrash, we'd literally plate everything in gold. The chairs would be gold, the tables would be gold, everything would be just, the walls we just plated with gold. All that gold that we're using for our fancy house and everything. We would, if we see the kedusha of the base medrash, we'd just plate everything with gold. Obviously, we don't see it, and we do what we can, but he said that's the gadla. So anything that's coming into a base medrash that's an upgrade is beautiful. And we were waiting, and finally the guys came in, and I think I have a picture of them somewhere.
Were they gold?
No, they were very interesting. Clever. The guy that came in, they were both very, very excitable, if you want to say, very exalted levels of consciousness, if you want to. Yeah, they were very, very hoich, as they say in Yiddish. And the guy came in. He had six different rows, but they were not dreadlocks. They were just different colors: purple, green, orange, red. And then he had tattoos going all the way. The tattoos were all the way on his arms, all the way through his head. Any place that wasn't covered with hair was tattoos through his head, all the way around his neck, all the way his whole body, until on his forehead it said Yud, K, Vav, K. So I said, wow, are you Jewish? He's like, no, I'm Puerto Rican, but I have such a story to tell. And he started telling a story, and I told the Rav, look at that. Rav just went, oh, it was like he said, is he Jewish? I said, no, but he works with Hasidim and he likes Jews. So he said, okay. And so he told me that he
bury him because this is Hashem's name.
His partner had around 35-inch long Rastafarian dreadlocks, and he was Rastafarian, and he said he wanted to get one of those hats, man. Those really cool hats. How can I get one? I said, they're very expensive, man. He goes, really? How much they cost? I was like, $2,000 maybe, even more. It's like, no way, man. I got to get me one of those. So, yeah, they had very interesting stories to tell. But the Nakuda is that the base medrash shuls and stuff are awesome. We have to mamish appreciate our shuls and treat them with cover and respect in every way that we can, which includes giving the tzedakah to the base knesses. So with that, we will leave out the collection pan for later. At the end of the day, the Nesiim also were part of this whole thing. And in the story of the Parsha, the Nesiim said to themselves, they said, the famous story, that we're going to leave Klal Yisrael to give whatever they can give. And we're the rich guys, we're the Chashivim. And when Klal Yisrael's finished and they run out, and there's a lot of stuff left to do, so we're going to fill in and we're going to pitch in. The question is, we know what happened, is that Klal Yisrael gave so much that there was nothing to pitch in, and they were sad. And HaKadosh Baruch Hu held it a little bit accountable to against them, somewhat, that their name in the Torah is written without a Yud. So the question is, what did they do wrong in Nesiim? Their Taina was good. Here they are. Klal Yisrael is giving, probably not going to give enough. So we're wealthy. We'll pitch in with all the stuff that's left over. It's a good Taina. So the who says this Vard? The Ishbitzer. So we'll say it, but the Ishbitzer, even though the Ishbitzer doesn't say this Vard, but Shimi says the Ishbitzer. Now it's an Ishbitzer Torah. This was just changed to an Ishbitzer Torah. So the Ishbitzer, Heilige Ishbitzer says that Gewalt, give me
could be once said it, like it's like a.
Could be he once thought it. Yeah.
Could be once read it somewhere.
So I think one of the newsletters that I read about that one of these letters things, he said that this Yid said his name has actually been deleted from my computer, so I don't know who his name is again. But my kid, when I was like typing up this share with my 2-year-old trying to erase everything that I was typing, he would push erase. So
Touchscreen, not a good idea.
He could get the touchscreen, he could get the screen. He knows how to do it all, unplugging and plugging in. So that's why it's a little chaotic, but it's okay. It's good chaos. So he said that when HaKadosh Baruch Hu, not a 2-year-old. When HaKadosh Baruch Hu, listen, Yosef HaTzadik was named Asaf Esherpasi, Hashem, now I have someone to blame my stuff on, my kid. So we can blame our kids, it's okay. So he says that when HaKadosh Baruch Hu asked the Yidden to donate for the Beis HaMikdash, so a person that's fiery to donate for the Beis HaMikdash, he's not going to make cheshbon and start thinking, oh, if I do this. When a person has passion for something, he doesn't even think. Right? He just goes. He does. Klal Yisrael was asked to donate. They didn't start making cheshbonis. Well, maybe that guy's going to donate. Maybe maybe Shiner will give $1 million, so I don't really have to give $1 million. Right? Shiner. I heard he has 3 heads. Man, what's up? Long last.
Welcome.
So, a person that has passion to do something does something right away.
Of course.
He does something with fire, and he does it right away. And the truth is that Adar is actually the Yesod.
Take some Kegel.
The months have Yesod. Today's Rosh Chodesh Adar, the first of Adar. The Yesod of Ish. And there's a lot of fire in Adar. Adar is a fiery month also. For a good way, in a good way, right? You got to use your passion for good. It's called excitement, yeah. It's the Geula. And we gotta hook up that passion. The Talmud actually says in the first pasuk of this week's parsha, "Vikli truma me'es kol ish asher yidvenu libai." He says that the service of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, the truma that we're giving to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, is asher yidvenu libai, is from the fire in our heart. And sometimes that fire could be even not so good, meaning our fire burns for this and burns for that. But if and when we're able to focus it and realize what it really is, so it's an amazing thing. It says in the Aron, it says that the Aron was wood, and it's called the Aron of Atzei Shitim, of wood, and yet Vitzipisa is some Zav mi'chutz, mi'chutz. From the inside and the outside it was covered in gold. So a lot of Mefarshim go to town on that, and they say, what in the world is that referring to? But I think the Medrash speaks about it, maybe even Rashi brings it down, I can't remember if Rashi or the Medrash brings it down, that it reflects the Gemara with Rabbi Gamliel, that he kicked everyone out of the base Medrash that wasn't Teicha Kabaroi. And he said, if your insides and your outsides are not the same, like the Aron, gold and gold, out of the base Medrash. And then when he got ousted, so the Oisei Hayon, they added 400 Safsal and 400 benches to the base Medrash, and he had Harata. So,
he felt bad.
Chilishas das. So the question is,
different words.
No, but Chilishas das is something.
Yeah, do you know that's the lashon over there? I'll check it out.
He knows. His own best intention. So he had Chilishas das or something. So the question is, why in the world did he have Chilishas das?
Okay.
He held a shita. If you want to come to the Beis Medrash, you got to be Teicha Kabara. You got to be through and through a Talmud Chacham.
How you wanted to get to Teicha Kabara if he didn't reach that?
So that's what What do you want from him? Why would he even feel a pang of conscience if that he was doing what he felt was right? So the answer that someone gave also was that, like what you're saying, Benzi, Mamish, Baruch Shekivanta. You're on the money this week. Why? Because you're filled with simcha from Adar. That's it. A couple of shots doesn't hurt either.
I think you're supposed to drink or something once Adar comes.
You're supposed to drink from already 30 days before Adar, probably, to get rid of Shloshim Yom Kodem L'Chag. Yeah. They could legalize things before Purim. It would be a whole different story this year. But yeah, no. I don't know. Maybe next year.
How do you do Mar Simple? There's a way to officially do it, or
so what? So wait. So the Nakuda was that.
So yeah, why
We're not talking about Purim. We're talking about
Why the Chilishas das was because
whatever gets you happy.
right.
Well, every second you have to get happier. Or?
We'll get there in a minute. We'll get there. We're not going to leave it off.
I don't want to say online over here
I'll
what gets me happy. So whatever gets you happy.
Only legal substances. What? Everything's legal.
100%.
Lomi Bai Kamar
Depends who you ask.
Quote Mechul Smith, he says he walks into a wedding and the Mechitten tells him, Mechul, only Heimish in the game. He says, Mechitten, don't worry. Ich mach mich Heimish mit jedem.
What does that mean?
If you don't speak Yiddish, it's not going to work. It's not going to work.
It's never
Yeah, that'll take a couple of
You
hours.
can only say that in Yiddish.
You can only say that. That's not going to translate. That's not going to. It only makes Heimish. No, it's not going to work. That one. Right, it's not going to work in English. So Teicha Kabara, Chilishas das. Why was he having Chilishas das? Was why he didn't have Chilishas das right away. When the 400 benches came in and all these ice varfs and all these low lives came in and they started listening to the shurim, so he didn't have Chilishas das. But after a week, after a month, after a year, he looks back at these 400 benches of these guys that were mamish no one, that seemingly were not Teicha Kabara. Their outsides and their insides, they weren't good guys. All of a sudden, the Torah that they were learning by Rabbi Elazar started to change them. All of a sudden he realized, he says the Teicha Kabara is almost shitchi, is almost chitzoni, meaning be'etzem a yid in the inside, the pnimius is gold. And even if it seems that his soul,
baby.
his gold, mom is gold. Even if it seems that he's not, even if it seems that he has all sorts of yetzaharas and stuff like that, that's the sechitzonius, right? Kaifenloi.
How many benches did they
How's it
add?
go?
Covers the Achim Rotzah.
Asher
How
Mayotzani,
many
right?
benches they add in the other shul when they kicked out all these 400 benches?
And which other shul?
Equal amount?
When they kicked them
All
out?
those people who went to different shul, right? They went different shul, right?
Oh, so which shul did they go to, you saying?
Reb Shia, I think it was.
I don't know.
How many benches did they add? OCM, he lost 400 benches, but how much did he add in the other one? 400? Only 300.
I don't know.
What were
You
you
have to
going
look in the
around?
first room. Where were these guys hanging out?
Right.
Oh, the ones that weren't allowed in?
Right.
Oh, what? They went somewhere else?
They did go somewhere
The
else.
truth is that we have to have
How much did they add in other
Yidvena Liboy. The
probably.
heart's got to give. The heart is a fiery muscle, and the heart, in seemingly the superficiality of the heart says that it wants to take. Right? You ask the heart, "What do you want?" Well, I want this and I want that. It's a muscle that just yearns to eat up everything and devour everything. And if we get to the pneumius of the heart, Yidvena Liboy, a heart that wants to give. The heart also is something that wants to give. A Rebbe, he was from Eretz Yisrael. He came to the Lubavitcher Rebbe, and he started speaking to him, and the Lubavitcher Rebbe knew who he was a little bit, and he said, "So, Nu, what are you doing?" So he says, "I'm teaching Chabura. We have 8 guys." So he said, "You have a Gevaldigem Koyach to give over. Why are you teaching 8 guys? Teach, give over the world." So he said, "Nah, I like it like this. I like it small. I like it like this." So the Lubavitcher Rebbe asked him, in Yiddishkeit, what's dominant, the right side or the left side?
Right.
The right side, Yad Keha, the Chesed, everything. We got dressed, everything was with the right side.
Put in the right, left,
So he asked him,
high,
so
right.
let me ask you a question. So if so, why is the heart on the left side? The left ventricle on your left side is pumping all the blood in your heart. Your heart is the core of your being. So why is it like that? So he didn't answer. So he said, why? Because when your heart is facing another Yid and it's open, then it's on the right side. Right? 'Cause that's the Nakuda. The Nakuda is that when you have your heart open to other people,
You're always on the right.
you're always on the right side. But that means your heart is expanded and it's giving to another person, then you're on the right side of that person.
How do you see like the Rebbe that's the one right now? Like
The Heintiger Rebbe.
So which story was this with the Heinrich Rebbe?
This was the Heintiger Rebbe, yeah.
Nice.
Yeah, this is the Heintiger Rebbe.
Wait, so what's the one right before it?
The Friedricher Rebbe.
Friedricher.
And what's like
Friedricher,
two
the
before
Heintiger
it?
Rebbe.
There's
That's
no
already
one
Rebbe.
names. They have the names
Why do
already.
you say the one that took over?
So whatever it is.
Well, they know the date of birth.
It's beautiful. It's beautiful.
They know that.
So the Heinrich,
It's important, it's
the
important to know
Heinrich
this
Rebbe is the one right now.
They
The Heinrich
know
Rebbe.
the date of
Today.
birth,
No, Friedricher, who
1955, and that's
calls him a
Friedricher.
Yeah, but not just the Rabbi Jacobson knows these things. I had a
No idea.
I had a student. I had a guy that I was learning with,
Yom Lula.
and he was not doing so well religiously. He was doing okay, but he came from a Chabad home, and I was once giving a shir, and I mentioned Lubavitcher Rebbe, so I said, which one is that? So he goes, well, the Baal Tanya, the Mittler, the Rebbe. He just listed off all 7 Rebbes like as if it was the back of his. It's like the Chevra that goes to Uman, like Chok v'lo Yavar without keeping Shabbos for like the last 15, 20 years. I have a guy that went since he was 8. He's been going 30 years to Uman. He said, I went in 1988 to Uman, He was 8 years old. His father slept him into communist Russia. And so he's been going. The guys, they go through, some years they're religious, some years they're not religious, but Uman, ma pito. Ani shama, ani mareba. It's good, it's a beautiful thing. No, it for sure turns them back, and it's a beautiful thing to have that core that's connected to it. We go to Uman.
How many miles this year?
The point is to go to Uman.
You guys drove from America?
That would be an issue.
The car that went in the.
Oh, you guys got from the airport, you drove.
We had a flight. Me and Benty decided to be nuts.
Forget about it. We drive.
We gotta have simcha. The one of the things that he was wanting. We gotta have simcha. Simcha's here, I know, but we gotta have simcha. You see in the story of the Megillah Adar, is that there was tremendous amounts of simcha that were necessary. This was a question that was bothering me for years, and there are hundreds and thousands of answers, but it was still bothering
I'll
me.
give you a simple one.
Give me a simple answer.
answer.
There is no answer. Queen Esther comes, and finally they come to the height, the highest point of the thing. She gets to Achashverosh, the Suda with Haman, and he says, "What do you want?" Ad Chatzi Amacha. What do you want? No. What does she say? I want another Suda tomorrow.
Yeah, Yeah, it's called
called a long
fear
con.
of unknown. Yeah, you wheel them in slowly. Sales pitch. Hello.
That's their
It's basic business.
It's called a long con.
the
We'll get
Mefarshim,
you.
the Gemara's answer. Yeah, there are Gemara answers that the Midrashim and Chazal that say that she was trying to get it that
course, he created
Achashverosh would think that they're right, would worry what's going on. Tons of answers.
Yeah, of course.
But one of the answers that I love that Rav Biederman said this week was Rav Mailach Biederman. He said that if you see what happened when Haman came out of that Suda, it says Samach v'leiv toiv levav.
Head held up high.
He was had help up high. He was Haman out of Russia. He was on the top of the world still. She saw that he was still v'simcha. She realized that Yeshua is never going to come. You can't mess with someone that's v'simcha.
Or
So
she got him good.
she got the next day.
Be happy.
The
I'll show you tomorrow.
Yeah, the next day when he came to the next Suda, what was he? Chafui Roish. He wasn't doing so well, to say the least, because the whole tide already turned. Because that night everything happened, right? The dream and Haman came. That was thing, and he got the dung on his head. His daughter jumped on him. Everything. It was lebedik. Once she saw that, she said, Yeshua's on its way, right? Mordechai. It says one of the words in the Megillah is that he was going on the horse with that in that story, and he was samach. Right, so he was going and he was happy. What's the pshat that he was happy? What's the need to understand that he was happy in any way? So the Tefera Shlomo says a similar thing. He says that Achashverosh, the whole thing was happening, but Mordechai was still atzuv. He was still sad the whole time. You see Mordechai, he was mamish crying. He came on the horse, and there were chaver dancing and singing, and it lifted his spirits a little bit. That was part of the whole thing of the Yeshua started to come from that very thing. There's a story that with Reb Simcha Bunim Mipshischia that they were going on some sort of lake or some sort of thing, and it sounds like to me that they were with a bunch of Jewish mothers, just from the sounds of it. But let's say it wasn't. Let's say it was a bunch of Jewish fathers, and one of the kids, Nebuch, fell in. A bacher fell into the sea, and he started to drown. He didn't know how to swim, and he started screaming and calling, and the mothers all started screaming. Everyone's screaming, he's going to drown, he's going to die, and probably no one knew how to swim then. And Reb Simcha Bunim saw what was happening, and he screamed out to the boy, "Hey, send regards to the Leviosin." And the guy was like, it was like a joke, he started laughing, and he looked around, he found a piece of wood, he grabbed onto the piece of wood, and swam to the shore. And they asked him, what was he doing? He said the boy gave up hope. He was dead. He gave up hope. Simcha, a little injection of simcha, a little joke, can go a long way, and it mamish helped him. The story that Reb Nachman told over, one of the stories that he says is of a yid that finds a diamond digging in his backyard, wherever, and it's a diamond of incredible wealth. And he sells everything, he collects and everything to go to London, because over there he could sell the diamond for a proper amount of money. And he gets to the boat, he doesn't even have money to pay for the boat, but he shows the guy the diamond, Antwerp, and he shows the guy the diamond, and this guy says, you know what, you must be a rich guy. He gives him first class. Imagine.
That's the Breslau story, right?
Breslau story, Reb
The
Nachman.
whole building and building and building, don't have nothing yet? That's the one?
Maybe. And we'll see. At the end you can tell me.
Don't ruin the story.
Yeah, don't. You're like, my kids, again, you ruined the story before I start saying it. The second I start telling a story, like someone in my family, when you're, if one were to watch a movie, the first second the movie starts, you're already guessing, he's the bad guy, he's the good guy, he's the bad guy, and then he's going to be back west at him. The whole movie is all about guessing who is going to be the bad. Never right either, because they always know how to get around Kaiser Sose. Anyways, the Nakuda is that for the Hamevin Yavin. Hamevin Yavin. Hamaskel Yavin. Shem Yerachem. So Reb Nachman said the guy is on the ship, and every day the captain comes to sit with him, and they sit there looking at this diamond. It's a beauty. And he's always Sameach, and the captain speaks to him, and he likes him a lot. One day, of course, he falls asleep at the table, and he used to look at the diamond all the time. I would sit on the table, and the busboy came in, and he took the diamond, and with the food, with the bones, he threw it straight into the ocean. Bloop. And now there's a nice diamond in the bottom of the ocean. It's not going to help him very much. And he went nuts a little bit, because he realized that he was dead. And then he thought to himself, I don't have a choice. He's going to kill me if he realizes that I'm a poor guy without a diamond. So I'm just going to act besimcha as if nothing happened. And he just put himself up, and the guy came and the captain, who was a pretty bad guy, came in and he saw him b'simcha, so he had no reason to assume anything happened. And he said, listen, you're an honest guy. I like you a lot. I'm coming to England, or wherever it was, and Tvelpen. And he said, I want to buy a whole huge thing of wheat, but I want to put it in your name, obviously, to cheat on taxes. Shem Yerachem. But this guy was an unscrupulous fellow, and so he signed all the wheat in this Yid's name, and sure enough, as they made the deal, the guy dies, and the wheat all came legally into the guy's name, and he made more money from the wheat than from the diamond, and that's what Nachman ends the story. He said, to end the story, he said, the diamond, he lost. It wasn't his, v'haraya. It didn't remain with him. The wheat was meant to be vayim, v'haraya. It stayed with him only through the simcha that he had, that he remained with him. So one nakuda just to be mechazik and simcha is that I saw the story, the beautiful story from the Reb Nachman's grandfather and namesake, whose name was Reb Nachman Hordenka, and he was once traveling with the Toldus. They were both Talmidim and Baal Shem Tov, and they were trying to get to Mezhbej before Shabbos. And sure enough, like Muncie driving, he got stuck behind the slowest driver in the world. In those days, you could try to pull over. You try to the familiar taxis, or the old lady inside, with the thing that can barely see over the steering wheel, whatever it is. Then they should all be blessed with good life and long life. But don't drive. Maybe there should be self-driving vehicles. They're all going to go 30 miles an hour, by the way. It's not going to be fun. Speed limit. That's pretty sad. But
I'm making them realize the speed limit doesn't make sense.
You're telling them there's going to be like 90 speed limit in their cities. Yeah. Whatever. The story goes that they got stuck behind the governor, and the governor, you're not going to pull over and try to cut off the governor because he'll chop your head off. So they were going very slowly, and it was coming closer and closer to Shabbos, and they were still miles away from Mezhbej, and they were getting nervous. So the Toldus started getting nervous and started, as they say in the common lingo nowadays, he started bugging a little bit, and he's like, Shabbos! And Rav Nachman Hordenka looked at him and he said these words, which are chizik words for everyone and for a tremendous key to simcha, for Adar. He says, whenever I'm faced with a maniyah, whenever I'm faced with an obstacle, I try to believe that somehow the obstacle itself is going to bring me closer to the goal. Hashem is going to allow this obstacle, and the Toldus just said, halavai, that this is true. And sure enough, they came to a town. And this town was difficult to traverse. It was a lot of people, a lot of things. But since it was the governor, they opened up all the streets. They pushed all the cars, all the things, and they just went straight through gleich. Easy. Everything went straight through easily. And so much so that they realized that if they wouldn't have been behind the governor at that point, then it would have taken them also a very long time to get through the town. And they went through the town much quicker. And then the governor went to the left. And they went right to Mezhbej, or straight to Mezhbej. Kitzur, they realized very, very much there that Mamish was all for the good, that in that obstacle was also HaKadosh Baruch Hu doing something good. And to end off with a great story from the Lubavitcher Chassid also, that there was a Lubavitcher that would put on tefillin in diamond exchange to a Yid that was not very frum. And he would put on tefillin, he would talk to him about Yiddishkeit. And eventually they developed a relationship. And he said, you know what, Purim's coming up. Maybe you're in Manhattan in a penthouse, a nice matzav, nice friends. Maybe we could get together a couple of your chevra. We'll come together with some food. I'll bring the food. I'll bring some Torah. It'll be a beautiful Purim Suda. You never experienced something like that. It's beautiful. Let's do it. They make a time. They make a date. Purim, afternoon, blah, blah, blah. Fine. Comes Purim afternoon. They start traveling. And there is crazy, the days before Waze, obviously, crazy traffic that they got stuck in. They come 2 hours late to this beautiful apartment in Manhattan. And the guy and his wife are livid. They said, we had 20, 30 of the most affluent people here. These people, time is money. They thought they were going to get this whole experience. And you guys just don't show. After an hour, they all left. We're so embarrassed. We're so upset at you. What did you do? And so one of the Hasidim, one of the Lubavitcher Hasidim, they were both pretty broken. They were like, Hashem, what do you want from? Why are you doing this? We're just trying to do good. And now this is what happened. So sure enough, they get a phone call 3 weeks later from this guy, and he says, I just want to thank you guys for the Purim Suda. Like, what? You didn't do a Purim Suda. He says, I know, but after that, my wife is not Jewish. and she got so angry at Jews. She's been screaming at me about Jews for the next week. We got into such fights. I'm like, I'm a Jew. What are you screaming at me, anti-Semite? I'm a Jewish myself. We got into fights. She left me, and I'm on my way towards coming much closer to Judaism that I could never have done before that. Hashem should help us. We should be besimcha. We should be besimcha.